my feet?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Jesus answered him, saying, what I am doing, you do not understand now, but you will know after this. And Peter said to him, you should never wash my feet. And Jesus answered, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
Yeah.
And Jesus said to him, he who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would betray him, therefore he said, you are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments and sat down again, he said to them, do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord. And you will say, well, for so I am. For I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet. You also ought to wash another's feet.
Yeah.
For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he is sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. Just for a few moments, I want to tag this text. Who are you willing to serve?
Amen.
Wow.
Who are you willing to serve?
Yeah.
One of the things, if you know me personally or talk to me, I personally really don't like the pastoral process, search process. I don't like the pastoral search process, and I'm not a big fan of the pastoral candidating process. Because what I discovered during this process, two things happen. You see stagnation, amen, and you see laziness or complacency, amen. Let me say that again. During this process, you see stagnation and complacency. Because while the church is having meetings after meetings, setting up interview after interview,
Come on.
they're looking for a pastor. And the same pastor who's looking for a church, all he's doing or she is doing is preaching and interviewing. And the problem is that while all this interviewing is going on, while all this preaching is going on, the community is not being served.
Well.
And what happens is that what we must understand is that when the pastor and the church finally get on one accord, when you finally pick a pastor and the pastor finally find a church, the first mission of both of them is to serve the community. And what we must understand is that our communities have become lost, and we complain about what we see on TV. We complain about what our children are being exposed to. We complain about what the school is doing, pulling out books, keeping books in school. But what I discovered is that if the church spent more time serving the community, we may not have these issues we complain about. And what I'm going to ask you right now, what I asked you today, Morningstar, now that you got a pastor, now that Dr. Sean Dandridge is going from pastor-elect to pastor, now that you have a church, the search is over. You got your church, you got your pastor. Now it's time to go to work, and the question is, who are you willing to serve?
Come on now. Yeah.
And what I discovered when I look at John chapter 13, is that what I discovered is that when you read this text and you see this simple act by Jesus, you find out there are about 3 different type of people you're going to have to be willing to serve. Y'all ready to go to work?
Yeah.
Let's go to work.
All right.
We find ourselves in John chapter 13, and this is the time where Jesus is letting them know that my time is coming short.
All right.
It's about time for me to go to Calvary and die for the world's sins. And while he's sitting with his disciples, he decided to have the last Passover meal just to hang out with them, to do some teaching and preaching before he goes to the cross. But while they're eating, before they're getting ready to eat, Jesus does something that surprises everyone in the room. He decides to gird himself like a slave and wash some feet. And what I discovered, can I put a pin right there? What Jesus did, he girded himself as a slave and washed some feet. And what I discovered, Pastor Dan, is that the reason why so many of us, so many churches cannot serve because we're not in the right posture and we're not in the right position. Let me help somebody. When I'm talking about posture, I'm talking about the attitude, how you think about a situation. Jesus had enough attitude to make himself a slave, but the problem is that many of our churches are putting themselves in the posture that they're too good to do anything for the community. We're not leaving our pews. We're not leaving these four walls. We're not leaving our fellowship hall. If they want something to eat, they better come to the church. If they want some clothes, they better come to the church. We have gotten so good. Matter of fact, during the pandemic, we wouldn't go to church and we wouldn't go to them. You got to change your posture. Not only he had a posture, but he was in a position. Because in order to wash feet, you have to go down. Oh, help me somebody. Can I put a pin there again? Is that we got too many pastors that don't know how to go down. Don't you know becoming a pastor is not an elevation, it's actually a demotion. Help me somebody. Being a pastor does not mean you get served, but you have to serve other people. Being a pastor doesn't mean you always get the nice plate and everybody get a table. Every now and then, as a pastor, you got to get behind the table and serve some food before everybody eats. All I'm saying is that the church has to be in the right posture and the right position in order to serve. The problem is, here's the problem. We want them to be saved and serve. But don't you know, in order for them to get saved, you got to first serve.
That's the word.
He serves, he serves. He washes their feet. He washes their feet. And this is what happens, So he's washing their feet. And when I discovered this, looking at this text, I discovered there were three types of people that Jesus served. The first people he served is that every now and then you're going to be able to serve people that want to be served.
That's the easy one.
It is so easy.
That's the easy one.
To serve people that want to be served. Listen, he washed their feet. Look, after he poured water in the basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, there were some disciples that didn't complain, they didn't argue, they just wanted to be served. Oh, it's so easy to serve people who ain't always got something to say. It's all easy to serve people when you're giving them chicken and they complain that they don't have pork. It's hard to serve people that you're giving them something free and they got something to say about it. It's so easy to serve folk who cooperate. As a matter of fact, I can remember when Dr. Shannon, his last assignment, I preached his last assignment, and we were preaching about how Jesus fed the 5,000. And what I said was that Jesus feeding the 5,000 was not the greatest miracle in that text. The greatest miracle in that text was to get 5,000 people to sit down and be quiet. That was a miracle by itself. Getting 5,000 people to cooperate. Getting 5,000 people to get in line. Getting 5,000, that was a bigger miracle. And every now and then, if God is giving you people that want to be served, want you to come out to their community, want you to come out to their school, want you to come out to every different church, you got to go and do it.
Amen.
You have to serve people who wants to be served. Secondly, you have to be able to serve folk who are difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the text. Jesus is washing feet. Nobody said nothing. Everybody's good.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter. Peter has to be difficult. I don't know, maybe it's just a text. But have you ever been in a situation and y'all got a plan and the plan is good? Everybody's good, but it always takes one person. And what drives me crazy about this one person, listen, don't you ever say this to me. I hate when people say, I hate to be the devil's advocate. Why you want to be an advocate for the devil in the first place? Peter said, listen, what are you doing? You're washing feet. wash you, you have no part in me. But before that, he said, listen, you ain't washing my feet, Lord. You're not washing my feet. Peter was being difficult. Everybody was getting their feet washed.
Yeah.
Nobody was complaining.
Peter.
But Peter,
Yeah.
you will not wash my feet. And what happens in ministry, you're going to have to serve people who are difficult. They're always complaining. There's always something going on with them. They always got something to say. And guess what? You still got to serve them. And then here's what Jesus says. If I don't wash your feet, then you have no part of me. Because the same people that are difficult, they extra. He said, you know what? Then wash my hands and my head.
Yes, sir.
Difficult people. But Jesus still washed his feet.
Yeah.
Jesus still served Peter. No matter how difficult he was, no matter how much confusion he might have brought to the table, no matter how many times he spoke out of turn, your job is to still serve those difficult people. And I don't know about you, I don't believe there's difficult people in the church. So listen, we almost done.
Flush it out, Reverend. Flush it out, Reverend.
We almost done. So not only you got to serve people who want to be served, you got to serve difficult people. But you also got to serve some unbelievers and some betrayers.
Send the text. Send the
The
text.
text started off talking about Judas. He washed Judas' feet after the devil. Come on, help me somebody. He didn't wash Judas' feet before he was possessed by Satan. He washed Judas' feet after. In other words, in ministry. See, the problem in the church is one thing. Let me go back. See, first of all, what we have to understand is that Judas was not saved. Offering us some ideology. Judas was not saved. He walked with Jesus, but he didn't follow Jesus.
Talk about it, sir.
He served with Jesus, but he never submitted to Jesus. He hung out with Jesus, but he never bought into the ministry of Jesus. He just hung out with Jesus because he had a political motive to get Jesus to do his will. As a matter of fact, Judas was the treasurer or the trustee of the group. Can I make a commercial break? Let me take a commercial break. See, the commercial break is Judas. The problem is Judas had more mind about the finances of the ministry instead of the spiritual for the finances. He thought he had the money. He thought he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do with the money. And somebody else did something else with the money. He had an attitude because he didn't care nothing about the ministry, but only cared about the money. That's all he was. Now back to our regular programming. The problem in church, some of us, we don't want to serve unbelievers. Every time the church opens, every time we have a program, we always have the same people in the church. About 30 or 100 churches had Good Friday. They did the 7 last Saints. I don't know how many times. You can say 7 times every year, every Friday. And the only people that's in the church are saved people.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have Easter tomorrow, no saved people. We have Easter egg hunt, no saved people. We have revival, no unbelievers, because the only people we want to serve is ourselves, and we're leaving unbelievers out there, and that's why the world is not getting saved. Because it takes work to preach to an unbeliever. It takes work to reach people who are not saved. It takes work in serving, and sometimes getting on your knees and begging them to come to God. He had to serve Judas when he knew he was going to betray him. See, Pastor Daniel, this is what I understand. If you want to pastor and do this thing, You got to be able to pray for people that hate you.
Yes, sir.
You know how many times you're going to have to go to a hospital and pray for somebody on their deathbed and they hating that you came up there, but you know what? You still got to go pray for them. You're going to have folk that's going to roll their eyes and cuss out your wife, but guess what? You still got to pray for them when they sick. Guess what? When your kids get in trouble, they're going to talk about you, but guess what? When their kids go to jail, you right there waiting in line to go visit them. You got to go and beat some people and serve folk that you know ain't no good, know they've been talking about you, and know they're going to betray you. That's serving. You have to serve. Judas, he washed Judas' feet. And then he tells them, listen, what I'm showing you, if the bastard is willing to do it, if Jesus, who we just sung praises to, is willing to posture himself, get himself in a position to serve, why you won't serve? Why we won't roll up our sleeves and serve? If you want to be a church that God has called, you got to be ready to serve the community. You got to be able to serve those who want to be served. You got to be able to serve those who are non-believers. You got to be able to serve those who are struggling with their sexuality. You got to be able to serve those. You might not know their gender. It don't matter. I can let you know my Christ. It doesn't matter. And the problem is you got to be willing to serve them. I remember, and I'm done. I remember my last assignment. We did a diaper drive. We were collecting diapers for teenage mothers. And a young lady came to me from my church. And she said, why are we collecting diapers for these ladies who had sex out of wedlock? And I looked at her and I said, first of all, the diapers are for the kids, not the mom. Babies ain't had sex with nobody. You serve regardless of who they are, regardless of their sexuality, regardless. I know we dealing with this gender identity, we dealing with all kind of stuff. Regardless of their race, we got to stop serving people, only serving people that look like us. Amen? We don't want to serve poor black folk, but there's a whole lot of poor white people that are being forgotten not only by black folk, they're getting forgotten by their own people.
That's right. That's true.
You have to be willing to serve. And he said, listen, if you're not willing to serve, basically what you're saying is you're better than me. Jesus served. He got himself in a position to serve. He put himself in the posture to serve. Jesus wasn't worried about who was in front of him, what their feet looked like, what their condition was. He served. And the thing I love about Jesus, his humility, not only did he serve by washing feet, he decided to serve the Savior of your soul. Yes. He decided to serve all the way to Calvary's Mountain. He decided to serve from Judgment Hall to Judgment Hall.
Come on, Doc.
He decided to serve. And he didn't say a mumbling word.
Yes, sir.
He served the folk who yelled, Hosanna, Son of David. But he served the people that said, crucify him.
I can hear your voice.
He served the people
Yes, sir.
who had leprosy and couldn't see. And he served the Pharisees that plotted to kill him. I'm so glad that my Jesus served.
Yes, sir.
I'm so glad that he served for me.
Yes, sir.
He served to the point where he decided to take a whooping all night long.
Yes, sir.
He served to the point where he got not a crown of gold, but a crown of thorns. Oh yeah, he served. I'm so glad he served because he went to Calvary's Mountain. And while he was serving y'all, they nailed his hands. While he was serving y'all, they nailed his feet. I'm so glad. I'm so glad he served. I'm so glad he took a beating for me. Are you better than Jesus? But Jesus took a beating for you. He died till the sun stopped shining. He died till the moon started to bleed. He died till the earth started to quake. He died till the grave started to open. He died because somebody said, surely, he must be the Son of God. I'm so glad he didn't stop dying. I'm so glad he said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. I'm so glad he kept serving. And so on this day, I know you got problems, but on this day, I know you're a liar, but on this day, I know you're an adulterer, but on this day, I know you're a drug addict, but on this day, you shall be with me in paradise. I'm so glad he served. But Father, I commit my hands unto thee. Somebody say, yeah. But I'm so glad they took my Jesus and put him in a bar tomb. And the one thing, I don't know if you work for the bank, but anything you borrow, you got to give it back. Because Sunday morning, he got up with all power. Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? I know he's all right. I know he's all right. Give God some praise. He served. I'm so glad. The story's on in. Because the Bible says he stepped on a cloud and went to heaven. And the people were gazing. And he said the same way he went up, he's coming back again. Give God some praise.
Amen. Amen.
Give him some praise.
What a word. What a word.
Are you ready to serve? Are you ready to serve morning star?